And we're live with George Webb in France. How's France, George?
Well, Peter, I'm in the beautiful town in Normandy called Saint-Lô. And if you
San
see
Lo,
that,
didn't it get flattened? Wait, where did George go? George was on low battery. He
here,
forgot
can
his.
you see?
I, I, I can I can see you with your mouth open like this. In fact, if I do this, people will think that the stream is completely hung. But no, well, I guess I have to stretch here then because George is calling from Saint Lo, France, which is near the Normandy beachhead. And I know that because I used to play the Avalon Hill game D-Day, and Saint Lo is a very prominent part of that game. Are you there, George? Hello, Victoria Kennedy. Now George is moving away from Laplace. Maybe he's going to find better Wi-Fi. And maybe he'll find a cable too. Let's see. Hello, George. Let's look at comments here. Dave
I'm moving
Underdown.
closer to Wi-Fi, Peter. I hope this helps.
Oh, well, I can hear you now.
That's a huge improvement.
Indeed, indeed.
So I'm in this little town called Saint-Lô. It's famous for its part in the D-Day invasions and so forth. And I've been going and doing all the D-Day stuff. That's the bottom line. I've been going and doing all the D-Day stuff today. I went to Utah Beach. Tomorrow we're doing Omaha Beach, then Sword Beach, then Juneau Beach, then Gold Beach. So we're doing all the Normandy stuff.
Right, and are you doing the cliffs, the where the Rangers went up the cliffs?
Yeah, I'm gonna go rappel Point de Hawk, and I'm gonna do the 100 meters, and I'm gonna try to arrange for Nazi fire on me, machine gun mitrailleuse fire on me, just to see if it's as hard as they say it was.
Your foot must be doing pretty well if you're rappelling.
Well, I think I'm repelling people, but like as a repellent, but not repelling very well. I do have a foot brace now, so it's better.
Well,
But no, I'm not really going to do that at Point de Hawk. But I did see a lot of really impressive, displays today and so forth. And a lot of French people also celebrate the Americans in France, not just the Americans coming here. Matter of fact, it's more French people dressing up as American soldiers than Americans here. Believe it or not, like 9 to 1, 10 to 1.
well, I believe that. Are they reenactors or it's a? It's June 5th. June 6th is D-Day, right? Tomorrow is D-Day.
Yeah, but they started the celebrations here in March 28th, and they celebrate the whole summer through August 28th. There's several cities that are involved. There's Tommy Kerrigan. Let me stop on my tracks right there and just say there's Tommy Kerrigan.
What's up?
George is in Saint Lo.
I don't know where that is.
It's in Normandy. Like
I thought you came back to America, George.
No, Tommy, I think I'm here for the duration. If people can die on the beaches of Normandy for our freedom, then why can't I? You know what I'm saying?
Fucking right. Fuck these Nazis.
I'll tell you this, Tommy. The reason why I'm here is this is the first D-Day celebration where we ever had the U.S. Congress fund neo-Nazis.
That's right.
This is the first 75. If you think about it, the first 77.
Yeah.
We had never funded a neo-Nazi regime. We never funded a son of a Nazi contractor, Klaus Schwab. This is the first one where we've set not one, but three, 17 billion, 33 billion, and now 40 billion. That's a lot of cash to the Nazis. Ike Eisenhower would roll over in his grave if he knew that was happening.
It's right. Yeah, is this the 78th? What was it? June 6, 1944.
Yep.
Yes,
June 6, 1944. You got it. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's rolling in his grave that we are now funding these guys.
Well,
And,
no, they were being funded while he was fighting them. I
well, that
mean,
too. That too. I mean,
remember, Alan Dulles of the OSS was meeting with Reinhard Gehlen in Switzerland in 1944.
and
Like,
Prescott Bush and IBM was, they were doing, or those punch cards machines that they perfected at, what was it? Was it Auschwitz?
yeah, one of them, yeah.
Where they perfected the tracking
All of
machines.
Yep.
I love the Klaus box.
Classbox, thank you. I couldn't think of a name. Did I mess this up? I had another podcast today at 2 p.m. I thought I had George at 2 p.m. and I thought I had this doctor at 4 p.m. So I was like at the gym and I was like, I'm going to be late. So I'm texting George. I'm like, hey, I'm going to be like 10 minutes late. I'm going to be 30 minutes late. And then I finally got here. I'm like, where's George? And I'm like, just sitting here. I'm like, George isn't responding. And then I look at the notification on my computer and just like a chill went down my spine. I was like, oh no. And so of course I checked my email and the other guest is like, where are you? And I was like, I'm sorry. I thought I was talking to a guy about monkeypox. She was like, what? And I was like, I'm sorry. So that happened.
Could very easily been an operative that slipped in, Tommy, to throw you off, make sure you didn't get to link up with Peter Duke and myself. You have to allow the possibility.
No, this was entirely self-inflicted. There's no sympathy should be allotted to me. No quarter given. I'm an idiot.
Anyway. Enough of the whatever. George, I wanted to bring something up because I got married on Thursday, and Thursday was the 2nd, and so I kind of like missed current events for like a couple of days. People might have noticed that the graphic didn't change on the top of the Duke Report for a couple of days because I was getting married. But when I was catching up today, I noticed that the that there was. I was wondering if you were taking a victory lap because it seems like the WHO Congress or the World Health Assembly voted down the amendments to the treaty, and apparently we were all saved by. I'm trying to remember which, by Botswana. Botswana saved us. They organized all of Africa, India, and China and got them to say no to the amendments to the World Health Assembly treaty.
I feel sometimes like the Rothschilds let the kids play with the marbles and make them think that they're running the show. Like sometimes there's those little toy planes or toy fire engines outside of a grocery store that you could put a quarter in. The kids, they turn the knobs and pull the lever and stuff, and they go, oh, I go up and I go down. I'm running the show here. But it's just a Rothschild illusion. I actually went to the breakout session on Thursday night. They had an outdoor dinner. The West African ladies had an outdoor dinner. They have all these breakout sessions. It's very compartmentalized. And I actually was with the West African ladies crashing their party. I didn't get their food, but they were, it was interesting. It was mostly in French, but I did have a chance to talk to a couple of the delegates, and they were saying we do feel a little bit uncomfortable with this kind of dictatorial powers, Emergency Powers Act that they're trying to put in. And I was like, whoa, here's somebody from Africa is pushing back on the WHO. Wow, that's really incredible. And then, yes, the next day on Friday, they announced that they're not going to give. Now, see, I think this is the fake, because what they did was they put Tedros in for another 5 years on Tuesday. On Thursday or Wednesday, he exercised emergency powers, health emergency powers for Ukraine. And then Friday, they did this knockdown of not universal powers. Then they immediately all came to Washington, D.C. and Bilderberg. And I thought, they're expanding this to not just being a health emergency, any kind of emergency, a disinformation emergency can be a reason for bringing in operatives. And he could be right now using his newfound powers to say, Peter Duke, Tommy Kerrigan, George Webb, info operators, we need to crack down on them.
Which is another reason why people need to bookmark and make their homepage, to use old 90s parlance, the Duke Report. Because if they want to actually find out what's going on with George Webb and Tommy Kerrigan, if they want to have one page that they can go to, it's all there. As opposed to depending upon the Twitters and the Facebooks to feed you that information that they are, putting through their filter. I've also noticed lately we need to circle back with Keith Adler and find out what's going on with 50 KFT, with 50,000 feet, his search engine, because a lot of times right now it's the only way I can find anything. It is Keith's search engine. Like Google is Melissa and Aaron Dykes did a great video called "The Internet is Shrinking," where they were talking about how if you go and you Google something, it turns out that in most cases, you're really kind of getting about 150 results. And they claim at the bottom of the page that they've gotten 60 million results or something like that. But they went and they started clicking on everything and started counting and finding out that a lot of these search results are cul-de-sacs. And so you can't even really find something with a search engine right now. So it's really important that people understand that feed aggregators, things that are just pulling information in an unfiltered way are going to be kind of the only way that you're going to be able to find stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, Peter. And by the way, I want to say congratulations on your marriage. I didn't realize it was you being married. And I assume it's producer Carrie.
It is producer Carrie, and I think my first 3 dates with producer Gary were dinner with George.
And if she stomached me for 3 days, that this woman had an intestinal fortitude that prepared her for whatever would happen in the future. That's a good way to test it. Just like take your, roop trick friend that you wouldn't ever take or introduce to anyone and bring them on the first 3 dates. And then if it's love, it's love. So that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it was terrific. Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And thank you for being so entertaining on our first 3 dates.
Yeah, well, I remember them well. Peter, I'm not going to get you a gift since I'm in Europe, and I found out about it after the fact.
No gifts.
But I just wanted to let you know I thought about you for a brief moment, for seconds.
Well, thank you. I felt it, George. I felt it. I could feel.
You felt the love?
Yeah.
Can you
I felt
feel
the
love tonight? Yeah.
Can you feel that? What does producer Carrie think about the fires at food processing plants? That's the real question.
That who plants?
The fires at the food processing plants.
Well, it's interesting because I had a long talk with Sundance about that last night, and he is still convinced that this is just the fact that all of these food processing plants that normally run 10 hours a day are running 24 hours a day because of the lockdown. And I can't shake him from that. And he gave me a great example of now this is something. I got this from Sundance last night when I was talking to him on the phone. This is the guy who runs the Conservative Treehouse. He said that he was talking to a guy who owns a major turbine repair company. That is, the company does the repair and servicing of major hydroelectric turbines. And I said, you mean like the kind that Klaus Schwab's father used to make for Adolf Hitler?
Asher Weiss.
Yeah. And he said, yes, but this is an American guy. It's an American company. And what they do is they fix turbines. He said that they've been deferring maintenance during COVID. That that this guy has been reporting to all of these hydroelectric companies and all of these electric. I think he also works on like GE steam turbines, which a lot of municipal electricity is generated by these natural gas turbines that are made by General Electric, and that they're deferring maintenance on everything. Everybody's deferring maintenance right now, and he said he's got like 60,000 repair jobs, or he's backlogged. Like these people are paying the money for their maintenance contracts, but the maintenance guys are not going out and they're fixing the turbines. So he said that it's only going to be a matter of time before they start having power failures based on the fact that the maintenance is being deferred on the turbines.
Peter, why don't I feel comfortable when I know Klaus Schwab was building these power plants in the middle of like these Swiss mountains, and then secreted the technology to South Africa, and has been building power plants for illegal regimes, for their backup power for their military for decades. Why do I feel like this could be a contrived power failure?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But Sundance was trying to equate that to the food processing thing. That's the reason that I brought it up. You know,
Well,
he was going, well, he was saying, well, if they're doing this with the electric power plants, what makes you think they're not doing it with the food processing plants? And I'm going, and what I thought Tommy was actually referring to, besides the food plant fires, is that in Southern Cal, so we're heading into the hot part of the summer, right? And in the hot part of the summer is when they've been having these fires. They've been having all of these quote unquote electrical fires in Northern California. I went to a wedding in Agora last weekend. Not my wedding, somebody else's wedding, and the people that had the house there were telling me that they've been regularly turning off the electricity whenever the wind starts to blow, because they say that a down power line will cause a fire. And I'm thinking, this is a psyop. You know, this is they're trying to get people used to the fact that their electricity is going to start regularly going off, right? Because people need to. It gets back to Leo Strauss, right? You need to believe that the government is producing some kind of value for you, because if you don't think that the government is producing value for you, then you start to wonder like why you're paying taxes, things like that. So you need to kind of like let people know every once in a while that they need you, right? Yeah. And so I've been thinking about all of this, and I'm thinking, and there's also been a lot of news stories lately about fire. There was a commission or something that was created in order to be able, I think it was in New York City, in Brooklyn, that was designed to assess what the fire liability is for every building in the United States, and give it some kind of an index. And, you know, I live in an area that it's kind of prone to fires. Malibu burns, you know, the Santa Monica Mountains burn kind of regularly. And I'm just wondering what kind of, you know, manufactured fire events are going to wind up being created this summer.
Tommy's the fire expert. I'll let Tommy talk.
I'm in no way a fire expert. I'm just trying to.
I might have to. I should probably put up my high octane speculation banner there.
Have we? So I mean, so it seems like everything that, you know, the Great Reset has predicted and kind of laid out and said what they're going to do has come to pass. We haven't seen Cyber Polygon yet, have we?
I don't know. Robert Edward Grant posted a story on his Twitter a couple of days ago. Like I said, I was getting married, so I didn't have time to look at it. That was an article about. So just to catch everybody up, Robert Edward Grant is he's the ex-CEO of Allergan, who resigned and became an amateur mathematician about 5 years ago. He publishes all of his work on Instagram, and claimed he published a paper, and he posted it up on his website. I downloaded it quickly, and it's not there anymore. That public key encryption is basically fundamentally flawed. George and I have talked about this on this show. So there is a backdoor, according to Robert Grant. There is a backdoor that he published. He didn't publish a step-by-step thing how to do it, but he published a scientific paper, mathematical proof on how it's done. And so public key encryption is flawed, and that doesn't directly affect crypto specifically. However, there are a lot of people who have online wallets, and those websites that protect their wallets are protected with public key encryption. So the transfer mechanism for crypto is safe for now, but the wallets, if you keep your crypto in an online wallet, then those things are probably not safe.
Well, Tommy's the crypto expert, so I'm going to defer to Tommy.
George, this is just lazy podcast. This is just horse shit.
No, I will say one thing. I wonder how long I can get away with that.
Yeah, we got two. I let the first one slide.
Okay.
The second one was a smack in the face to my own intelligence.
I will say this: Whole Foods is talking about with some other grocery store, of doing palm prints and thumbprints. I think for checkouts. I think it's facial recognition, like your Clearview, Peter, or palm prints only to go. Like this is supposed to be touchless and so tray chic and so tray green, but it's the way of ushering in facial recognition and human only. What do you call that? Biometrics.
Right.
Now,
and crypto only.
To kind of go back to the power, is there an alternative hypothesis where it's not necessarily the Great Reset? Could it be? I mean, we know the government colludes with private corporations, as we just saw with COVID. Do you think that there's any chance that this whole power grid, deferred maintenance, suspension of oil drilling leases, do you think this is all in a shift to create a demand for power, and that way you can usher in nuclear power, and then all the big companies like an Exxon or a Chevron or a whatever are all going to move in to start, producing nuclear power? Is that the way to do it? Is it to shift public opinion? Because for so many decades they've used the brainwashing to say nuclear's bad, and maybe the elites are now looking at it and going, oh shit, we actually can't keep this oil game going. Could it be you produce, kind of like what you said about the government, do you make oil look unfeasible and then you dangle as we've seen, they can turn the entire population against Elon Musk, pro-Ukraine, anti-whatever. No one has any independent thought. They're all just waiting for the download, being told what to think. So it really wouldn't be that difficult for them to just do a complete 180. In 6 months, you could have the left rioting in the streets demanding nuclear power. Like there is no logic anymore. There is no foundational belief system or immutable static values that are held. It's just, we've seen that. Elon went from like hero to he is the great Satan. Do you think that this could be, is it necessarily the Great Reset, or is it just let's prime them, they'll be begging for nuclear power, just as an alternative hypothesis?
I think you're definitely right on the nuclear power thing. I'll say this before my battery dies, kind of ironically, that Klaus Schwab, ever since his dad was doing nuclear power with small nuclear reactors, trying to get them smaller and smaller, easier to hide, because of the perfect backup power. They don't create a energy plume and so forth, hard to see from space, all the things you need in a defensive, like military backup system. And Klaus Schwab has been hoarding the uranium. So the Great Reset is, I own all the means of production. And I think you're exactly right. If, like, I control the crypto, I control the key codes, I control the power, I control the food supply, and I'll just keep breaking your systems until you finally realize that my Great Reset systems are the way to go.
Yeah. Peter?
It's the mob. It's
the Schwab.
The Schwab mob.
The Schwab mob. Hold on 1 second.
That's really the story. I think this is really the story. And Peter, I'm sorry, I was the only person here in this restaurant. And then they heard, the Duke Report. And man,
it happens, George. It happens,
Look they came from everywhere. All the 25-year-olds in Normandy streamed to this place. There's not anybody over 25 here. They all came here. The Duke Report, I could actually talk, and they were all like, can you get me, a signature from Peter Duke? They didn't want to, who are you? I don't care who you are. Can you get me a subscription to the
Well,
Duke.
now that you're talking about signatures and so don't you have a new reminds me, don't you have a new book out?
I do have a new book out. I'm publishing it serially. But Peter, I wanted to tell everybody, the Duke Report doesn't cost you any money. You don't have to give away your firstborn. You don't have to mortgage your house. You don't have to send money. Right now, the Duke Report is free. Is that true?
Well, the Duke Report is free. If you'd like to send me money, if you appreciate the fact that I'm providing a service that makes your life better, you could buy me a coffee, and many people buy me coffee, and I appreciate that. Many more people have been buying T-shirts lately, which is pretty good. I have a couple of T-shirt designs that are in limbo right now. I should probably I can pull them up and show them. Tommy will appreciate this. Let me see. Will this one get me banned off of YouTube?
You should have one that says, "I'm married, but I still love the Duke Report."
My computer is running a little slow. No, I did a gay pride. I did a design that has a gay flag on it, and it says "Unregistered Pride." Voting is fake and gay. It's still in limbo at Spreadshirt. I'm not sure whether or not they're going to allow that. Now, it's funny because it's because I'm trying to figure out what logic they would use if I think if being gay is good and voting is good, and I think voting is gay, then I don't understand why they would have any kind of a problem with it, but we'll find out.
I did an episode yesterday about Patriot Front, and I said we did it during Pride Month because it's the gayest group of them all. And very quickly, I had someone comment almost immediately that Patriot Front is not a bunch of feds, and it sounded like a Fed comment. But to kind of take it in 180 degrees, George, can you update us on Congo or Crimean Crimean hemorrhagic fever, or the nosebleed illness that you're kind of seeing little bits in the news, but it feels like early COVID where it seems like it's very far away and not real?
Okay, there you go. Well, I can't do it while that graphic is up. But I will answer Peter Duke's question first. I am writing a new book. The first edition is out this morning. Peter Duke's algorithm successfully shunted me away, or producer Gary's algorithm shunted me away from the top of the Duke Report. But the title is Blood, Sand, and Betrayal. It tells the story of young men coming across the ocean as 18-year-olds, braving the machine guns here at Normandy Beach, dying face first in the sand, bleeding into the sand, only to have their memory disgraced 78 years later by the U.S. Congress, sending money to the same neo-Nazis that those young men gave their lives to fight. So that's the name of that, Blood, Sand, and Betrayal. But to answer your question, Tommy, which is a wholly different question, which
complete 180. It's like turning off the lights. It's like, as we move from the new T-shirts, could you tell me about the lab-made hemorrhagic genocide fever? Quite an entrance.
You said it yourself, Tommy. You opened the door.
I did.
Yes, you did. Nosebleed fever. Nosebleed fever, the Congo Crimea hemorrhagic fever that we all talked about. We all predicted it. And now, guess what? Oopsie, oopsie, oopsie. CCHF is hitting noses near you. People are bleeding profusely about the nose. Now, why all the hemorrhagic fevers? We'll have to get into that after my phone dies on our next episode. But Tommy, I would love to do an episode with you, or Peter, I would love to do another episode with you. We can get into this.
George, anytime your battery is working, I'm there.
I am so sorry. I was all day at Normandy and filming all these people, and I just filmed so much footage today, and I'm dead. So let me do this as a placeholder. God strike me dead. God strike me dead if I don't come back next week with you, Tommy, if not sooner. on the Duke Report Tuesday night or the Duke Report Thursday night at 5 and answer your question. God strike me dead if I don't do that. I'll see you guys. If you will bid me leave or give me leave, I will.
I don't think we have a choice, Tommy. What he's saying is that we have to let him go because his camera's about to die.
You're right.
Blink twice, class has a gun to your head. This is bullshit.
I wrote a book called Schwab No More.
George, you're not real, are you? George is dead. This is a deep fake, isn't it? Where's George, Klaus? Where's George?
He's dead. This is all fake. All right, guys. I'm going to leave you in the capable hands of one, the comedy stylings of one, Tommy Kerrigan. Thank you, guys. Bye from Normandy. Betrayal starts with blood, sand, and ends in betrayal. The U.S. Congress betraying all the dead on the beaches at Normandy. Guys, take care. I'll see you soon.
Bye now.
Betrayal, broken batteries, George Webb.
He lost his cable. I would think if I was George, I'd have like 10 cables.
Yeah, I don't want to hear shit. There was a bead on him. Someone had a sniper rifle.
Was there a red?
Yeah, it was there. It was fucking there. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's kind of on like a 180 from all the doom and gloom. I've really been trying to meditate even more recently. I allot myself 20 minutes a day, and starting like a week ago, I bumped it up to 30 minutes for the first time in like 10 years. And because meditation for me at least is like exponential. Like you can't just for me, I can't meditate 4 times a day for 5 minutes. It's not the same as 1 time a day for 20 minutes. There's some Alan Watts, the kind of philosopher guy, died in 1972, I think, said it's a lot like muddy water. You can't calm it by trying to push the mud down. You just have to not touch it and let all the silt go to the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, after 15 or 14 years of meditation, I truly have found there is no method. It's just, it takes about 15. That's what I found, is it takes about 15 minutes, whether you're doing a mantra or focusing on your breath or looking at a candle or thinking about something. It takes about 15 minutes for like this silt to kind of just die down, and you start noticing the gaps in thought, and they come more and more frequently, and then you'll get lost in thought and gotta do this, and I get and then it starts to go down more. It goes down more, and you really only get like 3 or 4 minutes, but you get very close to just like silence, and the only thing that you know is that you are. And when I do that, there's almost this sort of like, maybe it's me sticking my head in the sand, like the brain going in a shock when a shark bites your leg off. But there's part of me that just goes like where is the World Economic Forum? Where is all the doom and gloom you see? Like, that doesn't mean stick your head in the sand and don't be part of the world, but it's also something just says like, look around you. And it's like I'm sitting on a bed. The air conditioning is working. My door locks. My refrigerator's full of food. I'm breathing. I'm not in pain. I don't have broken bones or sunburns or illnesses. And I'm just sitting there. Right now you can hear, I think through your microphone, that bird chirping. But it's just, you hear that. And like the sun just kind of coming through the window. And it's almost like, where is all this doom and gloom? It doesn't mean it's not real. It doesn't mean be apathetic. But there is something where it's like that Bill Hicks bit. Because you turn on the news. War, famine, recession, depression, genocide, rape, famine, war, famine, recession, depression, genocide. He goes, and then you turn it off and you look outside and you just hear like a frog. The stars are kind of twinkling. You're like, and he goes, where is all this shit happening? And that's not to, I'm sure there are a lot of people in this world that would say, come to my life. My life is hell. I get it. But that's kind of something I've been trying to do more and more, is I find myself succumbing, or I've been more aware of like the doom scrolling. You just find yourself on Reddit or Twitter. You're like, man, we are so fucked. We're just, and part of me would be like, there's never a moment where you start to realize you're doom scrolling. All of a sudden, you just realize you're like, shit's so fucked, man. You start getting nostalgic. You're like, I wish I was just a kid again. I just wish everything was a, versus you really go in and meditate. And there's something about the universe that just kind of opens up to you. And it's like, you just hear the bird chirping. You're like, what's really going on, man? Like, what's really going on?
Yeah. Well, to me, it's all about framing. Like I started doing meditation when I was in college.
What is a bard? Someone just said Tommy is a bard.
Is a bard. Yes. Tommy was doing a hypnotic induction. I don't know if Tommy consciously was doing a hypnotic induction, but
yeah, you told me I've done this before, and I don't know what I interrupted you. I'm sorry. You started.
No, that's okay. There's a book. If you want to read a book, I'll read "My Voice Will Go With You" by Milton. It's a book about Milton Erickson, who is kind of like the foremost American hypnotist. And you speak in very visual language in a way that takes people out of themselves and puts them into an alpha state. And what you don't do, you would be a hypnotist if you did do it, is that once you've put somebody into an alpha state, then you make a suggestion. So basically and the thing is, and I was thinking about this while I was listening to you, is that we use words in order to frame our existence. And we can reframe our existence with words, which is what hypnosis is, or persuasion, or rhetoric, whatever you want to call it. I mean, one of the things that I think is very interesting is that the trivium, which was kind of the baseline for being an educated person, 150 years ago, pre-Prussian education system, involved teaching people rhetoric, and rhetoric is the art of using words in order to convince people of things. Well, that's what hypnosis is. Hypnosis is a little bit more deliberate and scientific. It involves paying attention to where people's state of mind is before you make a suggestion, but really good writing, really good ad copy, really good motion picture writing, all involves some kind of a hypnotic approach to things. And so, so the doom scrolling thing, though, is that when you watch a movie, I'm going to go see Top Gun tonight. I don't really want to give the Pentagon my money, but I've got a friend who's a hardcore, filmmaker, and we got to go see Top Gun, so we're going to go see Top Gun tonight. But there's this thing called suspension of disbelief, right? Where when you're sitting in the theater and you're completely surrounded by this thing that you're watching, then emotions can be delivered. Your heart rate can go up. You can laugh, you can cry, and really, if a space alien came down and saw you, you're sitting in a chair looking at a big screen, and it's totally changing the way that you're perceiving and taking the world in. So at the end of the day, digital movie theaters, they're pixels, right? So pixels are flying across the screen and changing the chemistry in your brain. The same thing goes on when you're doom scrolling. So when you're meditating, you're turning that off. You're trying to the best of your ability to turn off all of your inputs and kind of like reset. It's almost like a restarting your computer, right?
Isn't it fascinating that the default is bliss? What I found is that it's not that you turn off the doom scrolling and the self-hate and the what word am I looking for? I had a concussion 2 weeks ago. It's still fucking self-deprecation.
Yeah. It's
not that you necessarily have to turn that off and then start to go, like, you're a good person. You're not a bad person. You are worthy of, I find that I don't even have to do that second part. I find if I just turn off the negative, it's not that the default is like a blank. It's not like the default is a blank canvas. and you have to get rid of all the negative drawings and then put on like lovely drawings. I found that if you just stop doing the negative, the default itself, like if you stop mowing the lawn and you stop like weeding the garden and you just let it go, yeah, it looks wild, but like the default is like vines and flowers and butterflies, and like you don't have to do, like what you have to do is you have to actively work to mow the lawn. You have to actively work to till it up, versus when you just like look at it and it just goes wild. And it's not like it's not like a mansion in the Hamptons or something where it's all, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's when you just go out and you look at something that is completely like, no one designed the mountain. No one was like, we're going to do the mountain here. We're going to put a creek here. So when the sun comes down just right, there was no designer. It just is. I found that that's kind of the coolest thing about meditation is if you just turn off the negative, the baseline itself is joy and bliss and self-love. And then you can take it further. And then you can go, things are going to work out. Like I have friends. I love my friends and they love me. I can be a good person. Good can exist in the world. We can overcome evil. And then you can just really jack it up to the next level. But even if you don't want to do that, just turning off the negative. It's never not happened in 14 years of meditation. If I can successfully quiet my mind, the baseline is just, I'll just start smiling. I'll just be like, I'll be like, I exist. Like I am. There's no like, well, then the Great Reset's happening. We're not going to know what to do about peak oil. I mean, you're just like, I don't know. Yeah, maybe I die in some drone robot army by a fascist dictatorship. But you're like, until then, you're like, I can breathe. This pillow is soft. And it's just this baseline. Just Alan Watts said, if you're meditating and you get to that moment and you open your eyes and you look up at the stars, you realize what they are fireworks in celebration of existence. There's just, the universe is like, fuck yeah, we exist. Like, yeah. And you're just like, this whole doom and gloom and negative, that's a temporary deviation. The baseline is just unfiltered bliss. And maybe I'm the only person that feels that and I belong in an institution. That could also be an outcome.
No, I don't think so. It's interesting because I've been thinking about similar kind of like doom and gloom thoughts lately, and I do try to kind of really practice having the most optimistic point of view possible. I think that I started to really kind of get a grip on it. I was driving my daughter to school like 10 years ago, and maybe not 10 years ago, maybe 7 years ago, when the MPC thing started to become a meme.
Yeah.
And some guy cut me off, and I just flipped out behind the steering wheel. And my daughter looked at me, and she goes, "Dad, why are you letting the NPCs upset you?" And it was such a great. She was hypnotizing me, see, and it was such a great frame, right? Because like you're sitting in that box and you've got your hands on the wheel, and you think that everything outside of those windows is real, like, and it has something to do with you, right? And that when that person does some kind of idiot thing in front of you, that they're dissing you, or they're sliding you, or they're doing something to you, and they don't even know you exist.
Yeah. You're cutting somebody off. You go, oh shit. You're like, sorry.
Right.
Like that's what you do. You're not like, fuck that guy. His mom's a whore. You're just like, you go, oh God, I was just that driver, wasn't I? You go, oh no. So you kind of do the little, you go, sorry. You're like, shit.
Right. So I mean, a lot of this stuff is just is really like, it really made me, the lead story on the Duke Report really made me feel good. It made me feel good that the damn Botswanans said, we're mad as hell and we're not going to take it anymore and we're not going to do this. And I understand what George is saying when he says, yeah, well, that 2 steps forward, 1 step back. This is the way the globalists work. We know that they didn't get what they wanted in 1919. We know that everything that we're dealing with now in 2022 is because they didn't get what they wanted in 1919. And they just keep coming. As Bill Whittle says, you got to get out every day and mow the lawn, right? To your even if you're not in the Hamptons, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like I understand that doesn't mean that they're going to stop, and that doesn't mean that you can rest on your laurels or anything. But that it did make me happy when I saw that. It did make me. I thought something worked there. Like something kept the globalists from getting what they wanted this week,
Yeah.
and
Someone,
that was okay.
someone posted on Reddit the other day. It was because every once in a while, if you go on like Arkansas, and like I don't keep Facebook, Instagram, or Reddit on my phone because I'll doom scroll. I keep Twitter on because I find I actually have fun there. But like I can't keep the other ones because I'll doom scroll, and but every once in a while I get sucked into it. It's like a little drug, and yeah, like let's see what's really going on in the evil corners of the world. But you go on our conspiracy, which is a completely just like shilled subreddit. But every once in a while you see this little like spark of light kick through. Instead of like we're fucked, there's depopulation, world. Every once in a while someone will be like, hey guys, never forget, like we're all one consciousness. There's nothing but love, and like this evilness is just but a phase of humanity. And you'll just see it maybe once a month, and one of them will just poke through, and you go look at it. There will be more comments on that thread than any other thread, and everything's just like hell yeah, brother. Like love from Canada, love from Australia. Like hey guys, maybe we don't get out of this alive, but who does? Like much love from Brazil. And you just see this like. And someone posted the other day, they're like, what is, changes pace? What's something you do admire about the powers that be? And someone was like, gives us something to hate. But someone else was like, I admire, like, they're brilliant. They have people marching to their own enslavement. But someone else, and there was a great comment, they provide friction against which we may evolve quicker.
Right.
It's like adding weights to the bench press. They make you stand up for free speech. They make you not just think about the ideas of being a good person, but actually put it into practice. But even something like that, just to try to find some silver lining, just to find some. And often, I know I get made fun of a lot for being an optimist, but to me, like, there's no point in just saying it's all fucked. I mean, even if you're on the Titanic and it's going down in the middle of the sea.
No, there isn't. Otherwise, why stick around?
Why? Why not put a bullet in your mouth? Like,
I mean, I think that's why we're here.
So do I. Well, this brings me to my next point.
Yeah.
Is I was talking about this last week. Not only is it good to find an optimism in this, find the silver linings, that might be the whole purpose. You might die and go to God if you believe in God. I happen to believe in God. Some people don't, whatever. Let's just say it's real. You go there and God goes, and you go, man, I tried to be a best person I could, but the whole Great Reset thing and the drones and the bioweapons, you're like, that was crazy. And God might look at you and go like, yeah, what did you think? Of course that's what the whole purpose of this thing was, to see how you fare against evil. There was never going to be a utopia. It was to see if you could be the best person when you were down by 50 points in the fourth quarter. I think that's why you never go to the gym and get out and go, oh, those weights are heavy. Next time we'll get the air light weights full of air. You go, no, you go in there to throw iron around. Like, that's the point. I think that's why we're here, is to see if we can grow as souls.
Yeah, and I think that you also have to be kind of aware of the fact that I believe that God creates opportunities for you all the time, and that's kind of the miracle. That is the Christ miracle, is the opportunities that get created, and you have to be, and maybe being meditating or doing whatever it is that you do. I mean, I think that praying the rosaries is a form of meditation.
Absolutely.
Novenas and all those other things. Those are all a form of meditation. But my favorite joke is like there's this guy and he considers himself very religious and he's living down in Louisiana in the flood country, and there's a hurricane coming, and the police drive by and they say, hey, there's a hurricane coming, you're in a flood zone, you got to get out of here because it's going to flood. And the guy goes, no, I'm praying to God. God's going to take care of me. Everything's going to be okay. And the police go, okay, and they drive away. A little while later, the water is like up to the first floor of his house. The police come back in a boat
Yeah.
and they say, "Hey, man, like you got to get out of here because like the water is rising and you're gonna drown." And he goes, "No, no, I'm praying to God. God's gonna take care of me." And so he doesn't get in the boat and he leaves. And pretty soon he's sitting on his roof and police come by with a helicopter and they say, "Man, you got to get out of here. Like get in the helicopter." He's going, "No, no, no. The God's gonna take care of me." And then the water rises up and he drowns. So he goes up and he's sitting in the gates of St. Peter and God goes and he says, I thought you were going to save me. And God looks at him and he goes, "I sent you a car, I sent you a boat, I sent you a helicopter."
Yeah, I sent 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, you look at it and like, I mean, so many of these things are just like cheesy, like Instagram motivational posts, but another one's like, they're not challenges or like curses. They're opportunities for you to go, okay, now let's find this strength. You never know if you could go, "I can't do that." And he goes, "Well, not now. Well, let's start." And then you complete it. You go, "I couldn't believe I did that. I did it." And then a new challenge comes along. You go, "I can't do that." And it's like, well, let's see. And then you get through it and you go, "I never would have completed that if I couldn't do that." I mean, you get through these things. There's another quote. I think it's Ram Dass. It's to constantly live in like a state of dishevelment, to be perpetually thrown out of the nest, is the purest way to live, because that is the repetitive dissolution of it. It ablates all the layers that you think that you can't live without. I don't think I'll be happy if I don't become a doctor. Well, then I got into medical school and I didn't go. Like, okay, that was different. But I'll never be happy if I'm not with this girl. Well, then she breaks up with you a couple years later, and you keep going on. Well, I don't know if I could hit. And then like you'll lose a brother to suicide, and you're like, dude, I can't come. Now 8 years later, and I'm like, that has given me so much strength that to constantly expose yourself to annihilation, it only leaves that which cannot be destroyed, which is the self. Like,
Right.
Lose it all. We're still here.
If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, of being lied about, don't deal in lies, nor hate, nor give way to hating, nor talk too long or talk too wise. I don't know if I kind of messed up the last line there, I think.
You don't, but it's beautiful.
And Kipling, like, he puts it all together there in that poem. And I think about it a lot, Carrie and I were driving someplace the other day and people kept cutting us. It was BMWs. It was always a BMW. It was always coming from the right. And it was somebody who was completely disconnected from reality, putting us in a situation where we could potentially die, but we didn't die. We made it, and it happened 3 times, and we pulled over and Carrie was upset. And I said, "Look, there was a car, there was a boat, there was a helicopter. Like, we made it." It's like,
yeah, it's, I think, again, Ram Dass is just full of brilliant little sayings. He goes, if you ever start to feel like you're enlightened, if you've got it figured out, you feel holy, you feel like there's light coming off you and you're a child of Christ and you finally figured it out, just go spend a weekend with your family. Go spend like a holiday with like your brothers and sisters and parents. Within 3 days, you will see just how much of a Buddha you are not. And it's just like, it's a way of God just being like, "Yeah, you think you got it figured out?" And you're like, "All right." Like, I'll meditate and I'll be like, even today, meditate. And I was like, oh.
My favorite Ram Dass story is like he was with some yogi that was his master who was dying.
Neem Karoli Baba.
What?
That was Ram Dass's yogi, Neem Karoli Baba.
And he went to be with him when he was dying, and they said, "What can we do? What can we do?" And he said, give him a banana and he'll be fine.
What?
Did you hear that story?
No.
So they gave him a banana, and the yogi ate a bite of the banana, and then he closed his eyes and he died. And the people around him said, I thought you said he'd be fine." And Ram Dass said, "He is fine."
There's another one. I think it's with Neem Karoli. Yeah, the same guy.
Yeah.
all around him. They're like Baba, like don't leave us. Like we can't, don't leave us. Where will you go? Because he's dying.
Right.
And he goes, where would I go? And they're, he goes, I'm just dropping the body.
Right.
He goes, you sell the. He goes, Ramdas is like, yeah, you're in the car all day. You're driving it around. It feels like it's you, right? You feel the acceleration. You feel it slow down. Turn on the air conditioner, the heater. You roll down the windows. You've got your blinker. You're swaying left and right. You fill it up with gas. It becomes part of you. Because at the end of the day, when you finally put it in park and turn the ignition off, you don't get out of it in mourn that you're dead, because you're just dropping the car. You get out and walk around, and there's a whole new universe. You got legs, you got sidewalks, you got stairs. But if you're only in the car and you never know anything but the car, and you forget everything prior to the car, you're going to start to think you're the car. People are cutting you off. You messed up my car. You're messing up me. I've got all my stuff in the trunk, got my engine in the front, got my windshield wipers. I am the car. Until finally you get out of the car and you're like, what are these feet? And there's a whole new, you can go into stores and there's doors and you can pick up chips and stuff. And it's a whole universe unfathomable to the car. But the car thought it was the car because it forgot everything. It forgot getting in the car. And the next time you get in, that's being born. You forget getting into the human.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. I kind of think about the same idea in the inverse way, meaning I read this great book called On Intelligence by Jeff Hawkins about, 15 years ago. And Jeff Hawkins is a guy who invented the Palm Pilot, and he worked at Intel for a while, and he always wanted to create an engineering model of brains, right? And so when he sold Palm to Microsoft or whoever bought it, and he had his $500 million, he started a neuroscience institute called Numenta in Silicon Valley. And he writes this book and he's an engineer, right? And he's writing about the engineering of the brain. And he's talking about how there is no possible way that your brain can actually manage as many things as it manages the way that we envision it. And he talks about, like the electromechanical response of like putting your hand on a burner, right? And then pulling your hand off the burner. He said it's not possible that the electrical signal could get from your finger up to your brain, and that with the amount of RAM and CPU that you've got, it could make the decision to pull your hand away that quickly. He said it's not possible. And so his hypothesis, which I understand his hypothesis, I don't necessarily agree with it, is that there must be some kind of intelligence in your entire nervous system, right? That it's not just your brain, that your intelligence is in your nervous system. I look at it a completely different way. I look at this thing as an antenna.
Absolutely.
Okay. And this thing only needs to be as fast as your Ethernet router. You know what I mean? Because there's a giant computer that I can't see right now that's connected to this thing. Okay. That makes me think that when I get into the car that I'm separate from the car. That when somebody cuts me off, that it makes me think that I'm separate from that thing that's cutting me off. But we're actually all but just part of the same thing.
Yeah.
And, you can call it God or collective consciousness or whatever it is that you want to call it. But I think that Jeff Hawkins is right. I think that there is not an electromagnetic way that this thing could be calculating, pulling your hand off the burner that fast. And this thing is an antenna.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a concussion 2 weeks ago. 2.5 weeks ago.
How'd you get a concussion?
I was drinking with some friends, and I was at a house I hadn't been to before. And then we got there at night, so I'd never seen anything. I don't know anything about it. And we're walking around outside at like 2 a.m. smoking a cigarette, and I fell in a window well in like the garden. Do you know what a window well is? I didn't know what they were.
I don't know what a window well is.
So it's so your basement rooms can get sunlight. So it's like it's actually beautiful. I slept in the basement that night. I slept in bed. It's absolutely beautiful. It's
why? Because you were unconscious?
Well, no. I went down there, but it's like the same width as the window, It maybe goes out like a foot from the house, and it goes down like 6 feet. And then you put like a little screen over it, so because it's kind of hidden by the garden, so like dirt doesn't fall into it. But you go stay in the basement, and it's like you get beautiful sunlight in the basement. It's actually I've never seen it before. It was an old house, and but the screen door is meant to hold back like I don't know half a pound of dirt, and not me. And I was walking along, and next thing I know, I'm like, the plants are at like eye level.
Mm-hmm.
My arms are straight. I'm like, what the fuck happened? And I'd fallen in. I'd stepped right on it, cracked my head on the brick around it. Fine for like 2 days, and then like 72 hours later, woke up with concussion symptoms. Had to go to the ER, get a CT scan. Everything's good. Just had to kind of been nursing myself back to life. But that was like my first and hopefully last ever experience with like jarring my brain. And the doctor explained they're like, it's a bruise on your brain, and they're like it's shearing. There's some like a lot of neurons where I mean, in relation to the 100 billion, it's nothing.
Right.
But a lot of them were cut, and you know, like I had to like wear sunglasses. And yesterday was the first day I did a podcast without the sunglasses in a while. But like, haven't been playing video games until about 2 days ago. All the lights off in my apartment, ice on my head, taking fish oil, taking creatine. It's good for it apparently. No impact working out. I have to like walk on the treadmill, do light weights, no drinking. Doing a lot of meditation has helped, but I have felt firsthand over the last 3 weeks. The first couple of days was like scary. I couldn't like recall basic, not like my memory was gone, but like if you had said, Tommy, who were we talking to earlier in this episode? I'd be like, it was you know who it is. It's and I would just sit there and I'd be like, how can I not remember? It's not even like an odd term that it's on the tip of your tongue. Finally, oh, George Webb. Like it would just, you go, oh, even right now you might say like, who am I talking to? I'd be like, just Peter. I was just forgetting basic things that terrified me because I kind of pride myself on being able to like pull up information in my brain like that. And I say all of this to say the whole concussion story is it was like, oh, you really fucked up the antenna. And for the last like 2 weeks, I've been like taping the antenna back together. I've been doing fine inserting, getting the wires back, treating it very carefully, putting the casing on it, getting it stronger. And now the antenna feels like it's back.
Right.
But I've never once thought like, oh, that was me that messed up. I was like, oh shit, I messed up my antenna. And I'm being very careful about it now. I miss beer, but I haven't had beer, and I'm probably going to take like another week off because I don't want to fuck with it. But
well, I'll tell you, I'm not normally this guy, but I was talking to Mike Cernovich about, I was at a cigar thing with him about a month ago, and we were talking about mushrooms because one of the things I've been thinking about, thinking about big pharma and the fact that, I mean, I don't know if anybody ever heard the story about like how penicillin was invented, but it's bread mold.
yeah.
Right. And so somebody figured out how to take bread. Somebody in a lab, they let they were eating toast and they didn't clean it up and it got moldy over the weekend, and they took the mold and they put it in a petri dish and it killed whatever it is that they were testing, and they discovered it. And I was thinking, penicillin is bread mold. How much money have pharmaceutical companies made off of bread mold? Like a lot of money, Yeah. Carrie was asking me about acetone today because she messed up her fingernails and what acetone's made out of. You know what acetone's made out of? Sugar.
Yeah.
Starch. I didn't know that. So I started investigating all of this stuff. I started looking at all this stuff. And Cernovich said that he takes lion's mane. And I didn't,
mushroom, yeah.
And I didn't know what that was. So now there's this guys in my neighborhood. I'm going to start pimping this. Like I was talking to them at the farm. I was talking to them at the farmers market today about pimping this stuff because I put this stuff in my coffee every morning. This is tincture.
Yeah.
And I have the wildest dreams. Well, I had the most vivid dream last night I think I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
And I think that my cognition is up. I think that my memory is up.
So
so
I can there are things that I've been taking since like probably around the time I started meditating, like high school through now. Take fish oil, lion's mane mushroom, phosphatidylcholine, phosphatidylserine, vinpocetine, ginkgo biloba, acetyl L-carnitine, alpha lipoic acid, and alpha GPC, glycerophosphoro. It's just some like your basic brain building blocks. It's not like a caffeine where you take it and you feel it. It's something that
Yeah, I
you're
get it.
not going to feel it kick in because you have to take it for years, and then you're not going to realize it's kicked in because it's just your baseline. And if you stop taking it, you're not going to feel dumb because it takes like, but it's the building blocks of everything. I truly believe that's why I'm like able to talk to as many people as I have and pull things out of nowhere is because I've been taking care of my brain and like it doesn't advertise because you can't make billions of dollars off of it. It's all dirt cheap.
Right, exactly. You can get, I mean, yeah, somebody said, is it expensive? Like, if you buy it like this, because they did all this work to put it into the alcohol, it's expensive. But you can grow the mushrooms yourself. The same guys who sell this, again, I'm trying to talk to them about like being a sponsor or something. They'll sell you a kit for $40 and you can grow your own. You can grow all you want. It's like, and I've been thinking a lot about this because it's like you've got crazy guys like what's his name, Terrence McKenna, right? And he's all talking about like all of the like hallucinogenic, Terrence McKenna, Ram Dass, and Tim Leary. They were all like, compatriots at one point. I think Ram Dass and Tim Leary were they roommates at Harvard?
They taught together at Harvard in the developmental psychology. Ram Dass talks about how he goes just down. He goes, I was surrounded by all these famous psychologists, Erik Erikson, like Dave Larson, like Eric Reisman. He goes, and then down the hall in a tiny closet-like room was an Irish man who became my drinking buddy, and his name was Timothy Leary.
And the CIA was paying for his closet.
Yeah. But let's gloss over that part. But yeah, I pulled up the list of acetyl L-carnitine, alpha GPC, alpha lipoic acid, ginkgo biloba, lion's mane mushroom, L-glutathione, NAC, N-acetylcysteine, phosphatidylcholine.
Yeah, I take NAC, perturbaline. Is that what?
Yeah, I know what you're talking. It's sterboline. It's like PTE.
Yeah. Because again, Cernovich. I saw this study that Cernovich was talking about where they put these two things together, a niacin. Is that
niacin?
Niacin and the perturbaline together. Like they gave rats these two things together. It was like one of these studies that Ray Kurzweil was touting. The rats that were getting those two supplements like lived twice as long as the other ones. It's like
acetyl L-carnitine and alpha lipoic acid was like that combination was the original like life extension drug. It was back in like 2003. They called it Juvenile, and it kept everything alive long. But really, what it is this is what I've always been doing ever since I started like looking into supplements in high school. I would just find like the really expensive ones, and then I would just go look at the proprietary formula. So you look at like Joe Rogan on it, Alpha Brain. Look at the ingredients. It's alpha GPC, L-glutathione, huperzine A, lion's mane mushroom, and some caffeine. I think acetyl L-carnitine. That's all. Right. So you go find all these things, and then you just got to go find like an online distributor. Buy them. You can buy like a year's supply each. You just get these huge. You look like a crazy person because you got a bunch of like giant bottles in like your pantry. But I've been doing that since like 2008, and I genuinely believe that's why I have like a sharp mind. That supplementation, daily anaerobic, so weightlifting, aerobic, cardio, meditation, and 8 hours of sleep, and constantly listening to audiobooks. To me, that's more valuable than like the most expensive like pharmaceutical drug or like neural enhancement procedure. Like there are some things you can do to just keep your mind sharp, keep the antenna sharp, and it greatly. I mean, it's like a car. You're just getting a better. Instead of having like my Civic, you're getting like a Rolls Royce. You're getting a windshield that never fogs up. You're perfectly, and it's like this is the thing that you ride in every. Like the comedian Brian Reagan said it. He was like, I remember when I found out I had like bad vision, and I just like didn't get glasses for a couple of years, and one day it just dawned on me like, hey, vision's kind of important. Like I use it all day, every day. He goes, so that was a weird thing for me, and it's kind of funny because I remember when I found out I had bad vision in high school. For like 3 years, I finally just was like, all right, I'll get glasses. And then I was like, why didn't I do this before? But it dawned on me in high school and in college where I was like, oh, I don't want to spend like however much a month on supplements. And then I was like, wait, I'm riding in this thing. It's not like a car you drive once a month. It's like if you're a trucker, you're in that all day, every day. Like I have a comfy chair for the podcast because I do it all day, every day. Why would you not spend money on the antenna that you're experiencing this reality? And why would you not exercise? Why would you not try to make it the best? That doesn't mean you can't get drunk and smoke some pot or watch Netflix. Like, you can do that shit too. But like, dude, keep the antenna like sharp and clean and well oiled. Why wouldn't you? I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just offering.
That's okay. I mean, the electromagnetic function of all of it seems to kind of, and I say this unironically, resonate. You know, in all of this stuff that we're doing, you're focusing your antenna like your DNA. If you look at it, I became a ham radio operator because Nellie Orr was a ham radio operator. I was trying to figure out what the hell was going on with ham radio, but I learned a lot about the big takeaway of getting your first ham radio license is that radio waves have different lengths, and the different lengths allow them to go different distances. And in order to make the things work, the antennas need to match the size of the radio waves. It's not more complicated than that. And so they give you a bunch of math formulas, the three or four math formulas, to figure out, you know, what kind of an antenna you need for the wavelength that you're using. And there's all kinds of different antennas, but it's weird because there are antennas that look just like DNA.
Yeah.
You know, and when you start to look at DNA, you go, oh, is that an antenna? Like, you know. And are those four different proteins that they're using? Is that how they tune the antenna?
Adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine.
Yeah, exactly. Are those things? Does each one of those have a harmonic frequency attached to it? And because there's this German guy that I was listening to who wrote a book with this woman, Cara St. Louis, who's saying that, you know, that the real genetic modification using radio waves is going to happen at the terahertz wavelength, which makes sense to me because terahertz is really small. It's like DNA small, you know. So if you're trying to change the four proteins, the resonance of the four proteins, you would be using from a ham radio way of thinking about it. You'd probably need terahertz waves in order to be able to affect that stuff. Yeah. So and then beyond that, like if this thing is an antenna and we are communicating with that thing that we can't see because, you know, you're talking about not having glasses. Well, if you take off the glasses, everything's blurry. I'm a photographer. Like, I'm so attuned to what's going on with my eyes. And by the way, your eyes get shitty when you get older, and it kind of sucks. But sometimes I leave my glasses off. If I don't have anything particular to do, I'm nearsighted, so I can read this bottle like that.
Oh yeah, okay. yeah, same. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. But if I'm not on the computer watching TV, if I'm just reading a book or something, I can go all day with no glasses on, and the rest of the world is out of focus, and I'm okay with it.
Oh yeah, I kind of like it because sometimes if I'm in like the airport or something, I'll take them off because in a way it feels like meditation. I'm like fogging up the distance, and so it all just blurs together. I'm like, I just don't have to look at it all, and I don't have to deal with every person and every plane landing. I'll just take it off, and it's just like me and like the person and like the bench next to me. And I actually really like it. You shrink your world. Everything else is just this.
And think about it. Before they had glasses, well, first of all, before they had glasses, did people's eyes go bad because they weren't reading anything, right? Yeah. They were hunting. Right.
I don't know how did, and that's one question I've always had. How did bad vision not get naturally selected out? I mean, you feel like no glasses, and you needed it to like just hunt.
Well, there's a whole. I'm sure there's a whole conspiracy that we haven't found yet.
I'm sure there's a whole
about how the Rockefellers have blinded us.
Open your eyes, sheeple. Yeah, it's like no,
I'm sorry, I'm the Rockefellers are too soon. It's got to be the Rothschilds.
Yeah.
Or the Khazarians.
Yeah, you gotta go. You gotta go to the old bloodline family. It all comes from the royal family too.
Or it's the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki they didn't want the humans to see, so
they didn't want the humans to. And the leader are laughing in our face. That's why they have the eye on the top of the pyramid on the dollars, because they and it's like, no man, it's just because the rods and the cones are kind of fucked up. But
well, it's funny because I had I had a good friend. Okay, so I used to be a fashion photographer, and one of the creative directors that I worked for, her husband was an eye doctor, and he became my eye doctor because I liked her and I liked him, and so we were friends for years. But he was an eye surgeon. He used to do the LASIK. You know, he used to go in and like give you the vision, and it was funny because I got all the way through. And I went in for my last appointment before they were going to do it, and he handed me this thing, and he wanted to sell me a pair of reading glasses. And I said, "What's this?" And he goes, "Well, after you do the LASIK, you're not going to be able to see close anymore, so you're going to need reading glasses." And I said, "So, what you're telling me is that you can make me see far away, or you could, but." I could see really close fine right now. I can see fine that far away. Okay. What I can't see is across the room.
Yeah.
And so he said, well, you know, when we do it, we're changing the focus of your lenses, your eyes. So you're a photographer, so we're moving you out. And so when you want to see, then you're going to have to put on glasses to see a menu. And I go, so I'm trading one pair of glasses for another?
At the risk of surgery.
Like, yeah. Oh, and then he said, well, we could do this one thing where it's called monovision. And I said, what's that? And he goes, well, I only do one eye, and then you can use that eye to see far away, and then you can use the other eye to see close. And I said, isn't that confusing? Doesn't that feel really weird? And he goes, you get used to it after a couple of days. And I said, what about depth perception? And he said, what do you mean? I said, what about hitting a tennis ball or something? Like, how the hell are you supposed to do that if you've got two different prescriptions on your eyes? So eventually I said, you know, you've talked me out of it, and he got really upset. You know,
man, it's yeah. No, I'll take what I have now. Right. If I can't have both, I'd much rather be able to operate within my immediate world, and then have to put these on to see something.
Also, I can't tell you how many times I've been saved from getting hit in the eye with a tree branch or something because I had glasses on.
Oh yeah,
you know.
I like glasses, man. You just
also, I have no eyebrows. I mean, and so I like the definition of my face there.
Plus, you just kind of pull this bullshit. You're getting ready to be an old man. You're like, all right, what are we looking at over here? And it doesn't mean anything. You're like, yeah, I like them, man. I like them. I don't mind glasses. There are worse problems to have.
There are worse, and like you said earlier, it's like I'm happy that I live in a world where I can have glasses.
Exactly, and you know what? The people that don't have them, they don't need them. You'll never know the joy of just being able to turn on high definition. Take it for advantage. There's a bliss in being able to go, hey, there we go, 4K baby. Like. There is a bliss in that where you click them on, you're like, whew, you're gonna go to a lake and put your glasses on, you look at the trees across the lake. How many people that's part of that's their baseline versus like, wow, you get to experience it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because I have a pretty expensive camera that I use here to make sure that the background behind me is a little out of focus.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I don't know how to do it with this one. I'm too scared to touch it. I got this camera to focus on glass here. I refuse to.
I don't know what you're saying to me.
The camera I have.
Yes.
I have a really good camera, and I got it to focus on me. And now I just don't touch it or fuck with anything because I'm scared of like messing because I don't know anything about cameras, and I managed to like figure it out to get it to focus on me.
Right.
Now I can touch it.
Well, focus is just the beginning. It's like getting things to be out of focus, and while you have other things in focus, that's kind of the trick.
Yeah, well, that would be the goal, to kind of have all this a little blurred. But again, I'm kind of just terrified. Much like LASIK, I'm just not gonna.
You're terrified?
I'm just not terrified. I just don't want to like fuck. It's scary. There's buttons I don't understand.
Call me, buddy.
Tommy, do you need help, bud? You know, you're not scared of the Great Reset. You're finding bliss in the trees, but you're
you're scared of your Nikon or whatever it is.
Yeah, Sony A something. I don't know.
So, well, I'm all Sony all the time. Which one?
This
is the one I use right now. I have two of them.
Sony Alpha something. I don't know. I have no idea.
Anyway, it's got this little flip up screen so I can see myself. So when I'm talking to you, I'm actually just talking to myself right there.
Well, I got you on. I have a split screen, so I see both.
Indeed. Well, we've digressed.
I was about to say, we're doing thrilling podcasting now. Let's wrap this bitch up. We have moved from Crimean Fever, and George's. He dumped out as soon as we brought up CCHF. Does that mean George is behind the lab leak? I'm not going to say that, but I'm also not going to say that he's not behind it.
And I'm not saying it's that's a shirt. George should sell a shirt that says "I'm not saying," because that used to be George's favorite thing.
But I'm also not saying this. I'm not saying George is working with the elite, the Illuminati, to release the 13 bloodlines to release bioweapons on the world. But I'm also not saying that he isn't. Just putting it out there. You know, we talk about all these guys with conflicts of interest. George has got a career based on tracking down these guys. I mean, there's a conflict of interest. No bioweapons. George's Twitter isn't growing. I mean, let's start calling out the George Webb industrial complex.
What about the nailing Jello to the wall complex with George?
The what?
Like George. I think one of the critiques of George is that he's kind of all over the place. And I
love it. That's what I love about it. I love that I never entirely know what he's talking about.
Right.
That's one of my favorite things about him. Is we'll be talking, he'll start bringing up names. Like you or I might mention Eisenhower or Kennedy, but he'll mention some obscure like pharma manufacturer in Lithuania. He'd be like, and you know, that's what they always say about Trubetsky. And you'll be like, the what? Is that a place or a product? And I'll be like, oh, yeah, it's all about the Trubetsky gang. You'd be like, did you just make that up? I think the first episode you and I did together with him, first time I met you, George started talking about these characters, and I normally just let it gloss over. My mom's always like, who's George talking about? I'm like, I don't know, but I like it. And I remember you paused. You go, George, no one knows what you're talking about.
Right. Well, that was one of the things. One of the first things, you know, when he was the finger, like moving around on the PowerPoint. Like I used to watch him and he used to talk about all this stuff, and then I would have to go look it up, you know, be like, who is that? What are they doing? Like, who is that? You know? And I really liked it because John O'Loughlin like wandered. George was doing a broadcast one day, and John O'Loughlin like wandered up with a violin. Like he brought a violin with him and started playing violin music with George. And he kind of introduced himself. I'm John O'Loughlin, and then George kind of got to know him. And this is this is how he became Macduff, right? And then George started doing a show with John, which was a great show, and all of the episodes have been deleted off the internet. But the great thing about John is that John's a lawyer. So George would start to say something, and John's little like cross-examination, you know, gears would start clicking in his head, and he'd go, George, what do you mean by that? Like, he'd slow him down. You know what I mean? He'd get him to explain things. And so I kind of use John O'Loughlin as my mentor in that when I'm dealing with George. It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. My guess is that the people who are listening may not know what you're talking about either. So why don't you explain it to people?
I think that's what Rogan said about Alex Jones on the second episode they did together.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, Alex is just this unfiltered stream. And he's like, you got to let him. He starts to take off, and that's good. That's what people like. He goes, but every once in a while, you got to grab the feet and pull him back down. and be like, well, we're not talking about the globalists. We're specifically talking about this right now. And then you got to pull them back down, and you let them. You kind of got to guide it. It's like you have to have almost like an interpreter. But what I like about George is I never entirely know what he's talking. But to me, that's just, I like it. It's just like a very, I don't know. I feel like I'm watching like Eminem like freestyle. It's not like a polished rap.
No, you're right.
There is genius in the rawness.
Yeah, no, there is genius in the rawness.
And I'm like,
absolutely.
I just like to. I think if I only ever talk to Webb, I would probably eventually have to start to like get an interpreter. But because I do so many episodes, and 99% of them they're all very focused and things are explained. I like bringing George on because he'll just start talking and he'll mention something that I don't know anything about, but I won't try to clarify it because I'll know that it was just a one-off. There's no point in slowing down the car. They'll be talking about this and be like, and that's what they always say about like the protein synthesizers in India. And I'll just be like, I'm not going to touch on it. That citation, it doesn't need a footnote. I'll be like, that it's just gone. It came, it's here, and it's gone now. We're never going to go into what happened in Bangladesh. It's just not worth it. Just let them keep going. Because if you let them keep going, then you'll get to the crux of the argument. And there's all these weird sprouts coming out on the other side. You don't got to trim all the twigs. Just watch it grow. Watch George go.
Yeah, George is an experience.
Yes. Yeah. You smoke a bowl of George. You put 200 micrograms of Webb on your tongue and you fucking go for a trip. With that,
we're out of here. So where can people find you, Tommy?
On Rumble. That I'll put it in the description.
And it's
Tommy's podcast. TOMMY_S podcast.
Yeah, or TPC, right?
Yeah, or TPC. The logo is just black with the white letters TPC. Twitter is Tommy's TOMMYS _podcast. Instagram is Tommy's TOMMYS .podcast. It's pretty simple.
And you'll send me that stuff, and I can stick it in the descriptions on all these streams. Yes. And I'm Peter Duke, and I'm at the Duke Report. And you can support. You can buy me a coffee, or you can buy a T-shirt. And coming soon, you'll be able to buy Lion's Mane.
Lion's Mane mushroom. Yeah. Get your brain working.
Get your brain working. Yeah, exactly.
I've had this like maybe isn't an advertisement for it all. People watch this episode and they're like, I don't want whatever the hell they're taking. I want the opposite of what Tommy and Peter are on. Like, dude, if you take Lion's Mane mushroom, you can be like us. They're like, no, I'm good. I know to steer clear of it. Maybe. I don't know. Everybody. Meditate, find love. It's all bliss. It's all peace.
It's all good. All right. With that, we'll say goodbye.
All right, my man. Take care. Thank you so much. Until next time.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.